Welcome people to part number 6 of my top 100 roller coaster series, which is now officially just a top 50 coasters list. This will be the last video where I'll discuss only 10 rides, as next video I'll reveal 15, eventually followed by the top 25 conclusion. We're into the top 10% of my list, so we are definitely entering elite territory. Here are the coasters that placed in the number 50 through number 41 spots. Number 50, heading back to a park we were just at in the last video, and maybe it's a slight hot take that I think the best coaster at that park is Lightning Run. That's right, Kentucky Kingdom has a phenomenal top 2, but this Chance Hyper GTX ever so slightly gets the nod over Storm Chaser. A big reason for that is its uniqueness, over a decade of this being the only model of its kind. And if you like out-of-control airtime, as I clearly do, Lightning Run instantly will be one of your favorites. This ride throws your body around like few others do, up and down, side to side, with very few dead spots along its relatively short layout. Thankfully, this model is finally getting another shot in both Arizona and Kansas, because Chance really did a fantastic job with Lightning Run, and it is without a doubt one of the most fun airtime machines in the United States. The coaster at number 49 is Legend, wait for it, actually don't. It's just Legend at Holiday World. This spooky themed 2000 CCI is seen by many as the lateral king of the US, if not the world. I would highly suggest that you know the person you're riding with, because if not, well, you'll get to know them soon enough, as it is impossible to not squish each other on these turns. They are so freaking intense and drawn out. And this ride is long. Every time you think it might be ending, it has another turn. Holiday World absolutely puts the maintenance work into this thing, but it definitely still has that CCI bite that you may love or hate. If you curb your expectations of this not being an airtime machine, I mean, it still does have some decent pops, especially the drop, and that it won't be the world's smoothest wooden coaster, you will potentially fall in love with Legend, as I absolutely have, and it actually finds a way to keep climbing on this list every time I ride it. It's Japan time, everyone. I know, roll your eyes. I promise, more Europe next year. And guess what? Number 48 is at a park that actually mixes both cultures. We go to the beautiful Parque España for Pyrenees, one of the world's best B&M inverts. The case can certainly be made that this is a top 5 coaster in the entire country, because the intensity and tingly feeling in your legs that I talked about with Batman 1000% shows up in Pyrenees. Intense but smooth, an excellent invert layout, with a punchy Cobra roll and helix, really well-paced inversions, and a very long ride, second longest invert in the world at over 4,000 feet of track. I am so happy we made the extra effort to come to this park, one of the world's prettiest, and the fact they have an invert on this scale, the ultimate cherry on top. Do not sleep on Pyrenees, a wonderfully fantastic roller coaster. Number 47 is up next. Let's talk some RMC, a manufacturer you will start hearing a lot of going forward, FYI. And maybe this one is a tad lower than some might expect, but for me, this is a fair spot for Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. Just the third ever RMC when it opened in 2013, and you can tell because my main con of Iron Rattler is it's definitely one of the short ones, and there's not much to the layout, especially in the middle, which can also be on the slow side if you don't ride it in the right conditions. But enough negativity, because Iron Rattler has 2 top-tier RMC moments, starting with its drop. One of the best in the country, period. Wild airtime, especially in the back, down this 171 feet high moment. And after that, just okay middle section, you get one more amazing drop right off the quarry wall with some big time prime air. A great roller coaster with some elite moments. It's just not perfect, and in my opinion, RMC has definitely done better since. Next up, I'm about to reveal what is my all-time favorite of a certain model. Number 46 is Montu at Busch Gardens, Tampa, just getting the edge over Pyrenees in my invert rankings. Despite being one of the first custom inverts when it opened in 1996, my lord does Montu still hit, almost 30 years later. You know it has amazing intensity to rank this high, especially that great Batwing element towards the back, but I absolutely love how many times it dives into these trenches, and Busch Gardens does a wonderful job making sure they're all themed to that Egyptian setting. Montu is the perfect combination of smoothness, intensity, look, and re-rideability. There's a reason me having Montu as my #1 invert is not a hot take, and is way more the norm among enthusiasts because it is just that damn good. From one B&M to another, although this one opened much more recently than Montu, one of my favorite height-full coasters, the B&M Giga Orion at Kings Island. Featuring a wonderful 300-foot drop, this 2020 edition is one of the smoothest rides out there, and maybe the last of a dying breed from this manufacturer. Just saying. Anyway, Orion is great. I still do prefer some of the smaller hyper versions more, but there's still some fantastic airtime moments on this coaster. The speed hill on the way back, oh baby, underrated element of all B&Ms out there. Fantastic. Orion is one of those where you can just sit back, just have a mindlessly exhilarating coaster ride, where it doesn't crush you with intensity, and you still feel like you're flying through the air. Always been a huge fan of Orions, probably always will be. I'll admit this next one, number 44, was one of my more difficult coasters to rank. And it may be spicy that I have a coaster called Lightning Rod at Dollywood this low. Let's spell it out a bit. My first ride was in 2021, so that's before they took away the launch lift, but after RMC made it a completely steel ride. So I never got those supposedly insane peak launch rides that happened in the early years of the ride. Nor have I had the non-launch experience either. I've had very inconsistent rides on Lightning Rod. Some that I consider to be in the slow side, some that were, yes, absolutely incredible. No matter what condition, the quad down hit every single time. Easily the best sequence of this coaster, phenomenal. And the drop is really well done as well. I just can't go higher than 44. It does have a few potholes here and there, I don't know, it just never forced that wow reaction out of me that I know it's given others. And sadly, I don't know if it ever will, because the launch was a bonus for me. So now that that's gone, well, we shall see. It's still a great coaster, number 44 shows that. It just won't crack my top 25 anytime soon. Back into international waters for number 43, a coaster that many compare to Orion. I'm talking about Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland, another B&M Giga, in fact, the very first when it opened in 2012. Leviathan, I believe, deserves way more love than it's given. Comparatively to the other Gigas, some say it's the most, quote, boring layout, and I disagree. It may lack some elements others have, but the drop is still absolutely amazing. Every airtime hill hits where you want it to, and it's still glass smooth. Orion is indeed the coaster I'd compare it to the most, and I have been back and forth trying to decide which is better. Next year I might give Orion the edge, who knows. But number 43 for Leviathan is valid, and now that Alpen Fury is coming to Canada next year, this park will truly have an excellent top 5 in its lineup. 2 left for this part. Number 42 is technically, kind of, sort of, another defunct coaster. If I had King Dakar on here, you probably expected Top Thrill Dragster to show up as well. Of course, the original Strata coaster, 420 feet high, 120 mile per hour launch. The comparisons with Ka were of course endless, but at least among enthusiasts, it was as close to a consensus as you could get. That Dragster was better. Lap bar only being the major factor, it made that launch, climb, and drop so much better. And while Max Force is my favorite current launch, Dragster was my all-time favorite, period. Before you ask, no, I did not get to experience Top Thrill 2 during the 15 minutes it was open in 2024, so I'm very much intrigued how it will compare. I'm sure I will absolutely adore it knowing the launch fan that I am, but the OG Dragster was very much lit. And despite not having ridden it in almost 7 years, it still found a way to hold on in my top 50. The back and forth launch action on Top Thrill 2 looks so freaking good. A large part of that being how much I love that feeling on Pantheon at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, my 41st favorite coaster. Let's get the, my god, the theming is so incredibly awful opinion out of the way first. My god, the theming is so incredibly awful. What a joke. But thankfully, the ride is anything but. The backwards launches specifically over that airtime hill, yes, please. One of my favorite feelings of all time. Looking down that backwards spike is legit terrifying. The drop off the top hat is really strong. And that stall, let's go. A few of the other elements don't hit in the way you'd like them to, but that's okay. It's definitely a weird puzzle of a ride. But the pieces that hit do it on an elite level. The best coaster at Williamsburg for sure. And it would be even better if it had some, it goes without saying. Another 10 gone, 6 videos of 10 coasters each gone. It's time to get really serious now, the top 40. In the next video, the penultimate in this series, I'll be discussing the coasters that ranked at number 40 through number 26. Which rides are clearly fantastic, but still not enough to crack the top 25? Anticipation and potential controversy are abound, as that'll be out sometime next week. Until then, all the love, guys. I'll see you next time.